I've been doing that.
Okay, cool. We'll have to, like I said, we'll have to, we don't have to make a date with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna. It's a nice place.
Show up.
Look at this. I should have wore a. Look at this. Yeah, but you didn't have something for the match. I have, I don't have a, it's not that nice. And you notice how it matches your wallpaper on your phone. Now, there's a new thing. You can get your wallpaper and your tie to match on your phone. Hey, good morning, Carol.
There you go. Pretty nice.
Just,
It's a nice tie.
So, I'm not very organized today. Someone else did, I'm very organized. I thank whoever did that. Terry?
See?
Did you do a lot of this organizing for me?
No,
Somebody was
That's what, you know, the Jefferson Airplane singer from the '70s, she got up rock and roll, and now she's a painter, Grace Slick. She said, and I think that there's a lot of sense of this, it is not very plausible when a 75-year-old person is talking about youthful rebellion and blowing up the system. They are the system. They're keeping billions of dollars of the local system. Well, you know, these rock and roll guys, you know, Big Jagger, how much did you make a year? You know, God knows.
How you doing?
It's got, it's numbers for sure. It's all like now. You're talking about youth rebellion, you can't get no satisfaction. You can't get no satisfaction after 75 years.
Might as well give up, right?
I did, they were just interviewing Will Shorts, that puzzle guy. And
Yeah.
They were just saying that, I think he must have, I don't know, the book or something, but they do the thing every time with this time they had some personal stuff, and apparently he just found a relationship at the age of 70.
He's now in a relationship finally at the age of 70.
So, and apparently, so from that conversation, I'm guessing he's never been in a relationship at all. And he says, yeah, this relationship fell in my lap, and he said things were good, and now things are better.
Well, good for him.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
Good for him,
He
yeah.
found satisfaction.
Yep.
Well, some sense. Can't get it going.
All righty, good to see you.
Hey, Jim. How you doing? Yeah, good. First check.
Well, I hope our speakers will show.
I did not tell, I sat down with, Rick, Friday, and I never did tell him to show up early. He will be here, he may show up 20 after or something.
Hope that is not the
Yeah, I
case.
hope that's not.
So we'll do everything out of order today.
So is this always how, is the preferred, have it way back?
You want to move it up?
You prefer to be wherever you prefer. That's what.
Maybe put it up. Well, those blind thingies.
I know these other churches have moved stuff around.
Good, how are you?
Here he is now, I'm pretty sure. That white-haired fella here.
Oh, yeah, there are, those are, this is some of the change in the group that's coming, I see, that's good.
Okay, good.
Testing 1, 2, test. Test 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Or somebody else. Looking for other people we haven't seen before.
Sure.
Hey.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
I'd like to see it. So we ended up Kansas, Oklahoma, Arizona, Texas. Talking about his vacation. Road trip. How have you been, sir? I got a brother and sister. Oh, yeah. Although you're the president, we are the Yes, well, would be you. Good morning, John. Who was, I'm saying, okay, saying that's fine.
At least what you do, make you happy with what you got. Or something.
So we'll be out there for that, but I'm gonna take a good. Yeah, I'll let them do it. I'm having a fine morning here.
That's Rick. Okay, are you Rick?
He is Rick.
So, yes. I'd be happy to. Who is Right, I have a library, I know.
And I like your
Right, right. And then if you want to choose someone to like to have.
Yeah, I got it.
That's good. And
Having
then,
like an interest, like the competitors, he's got a nice if his time matches his ball.
that's really better than you.
I have.
Don't let him show you.
No, I have the next time I think a while. I came for a while. I need to There's nothing like it. So about getting frog in there through the
Right, so if you
What's your name?
Morning, Chuck.
Yeah, I haven't seen you. We've been missing each other. What's that?
Hi, Sherry.
Good morning, Chuck. How are you? Excellent. Good to hear.
Another volunteer. They're only volunteers.
Oh,
There you go. That's
thank
for
you so much.
That's the veteran.
Apple or
Veterans.
cherry?
Blooming trees at the Veterans Park.
Oh, lovely.
I get around.
Good picture.
My wife takes me.
How are you? All right, Chuck, what's going on? All right.
No, I think that's next.
Oh, good day, everyone. Welcome to All Souls and today's worship service. We're grateful that you're here with us today. My name is Michael Huber, and longtime member, service coordinator here today at All Souls Church, where our mission is to seek truth, practice love, and celebrate life. Whether you're joining us for the first time or you've been a member for a long time, you are, of course, welcome here. Whatever your faiths you have known or not known, or whatever your heritage, you are welcome here. Whatever questions you hold, whatever the truths you seek, whatever sorrow you have known, whatever joy has filled your heart, whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. And now for a few announcements, I call your attention to next Sunday's program at the bottom of your program inside. Next Sunday, you'll see the 9:15 mindful meditation. I think that's run by Mark. Mark coordinates that. Mark was the first person that ever introduced me into meditation. Mark, why don't you maybe raise your hand? There you go, Mark is our meditation coordinator there, and he introduced me to meditation over 20 years ago, I think it was, right, Mark, at the Pink Church. We used to be the Pink Church. There's a different church, different group there now. And we used to go to Mark's house and do walking meditations too. So ask him maybe if he'd do a walking meditation sometime downstairs. I think it's awesome. And then Adventures at Camp Unistar is going to be the discussion. Unistar has been a long time place where Unitarians go during the summer months, and I think they open up several months that people can go for a week-long time up at Camp Unistar. Very great place up in northern Minnesota, correct? And then you'll see the rest there. And I don't know if there are any other announcements that need to be made. If anybody wants to come forward, any of the leadership team here, John Cunningham, please come forward.
I just want to remind those of you who are team leaders that need budgets by March 1st, and so that we can prepare the budget for next year. Thank you. You can either send them to me or to Janet Money Honey.
My name's Dan Reiki, and thanks to John, I was asked to think about helping with a care team. And you'll see that there are people in our church who have a little tag on them that says care team. And that means we want to be there for people that you care about too. So if you know someone who can't be here, who's ill, has a particular problem, then as a team, we'll talk about it, find a way to work with Minister Allen to make that contact to help people know that they're cared about. So care team, look for the yellow and just say whatever you want. We care.
And I just mentioned John Cunningham, I think it's listed in the back here as the president of the congregation. Right? Yeah. He was the acting president, now it says All Souls president. Awesome. And
A demotion.
or adjunct, I guess it was.
Moving up to the higher
And
lanes.
so, one other thing is, there are weekly email blasts that are sent out, and if you're not on that list, I think that they have a sign up in the back, so you can make sure you get on that list of emails, different events that are going on, I think. And, invite you to stay for conversation afterwards. We'll have coffee downstairs. And then we do always come back up and have a discussion with the speaker, which first is Rick Knobe today. And so about 20 after 11, we would have you all come back up here and have a circle discussion, please. So, no other announcements, then let's go on with our chalice lighting. And Kevin has graciously volunteered to help me with the chalice lighting up here. 560 in the book here, right? So where we're going to read from. So if you go to your gray hymnal, number 560, way back. Commitment by Dorothy Day. People say, what is the sense of our small efforts? They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has a right to sit down and feel hopeless. There's too much work to do.
Prelude?
Or did I miss the prelude? Okay. Sorry, I'm going by my reading. And let's go right, so we did get the chalice lit, and we'll go to our prelude. Strong voices come forth. I don't know this song, so strong voices come forth and help us all sing it out. Though I may speak with greatest fire. I'll go ahead and read the bold, if you would join with and read the text. I call that church free. I call that church free which enters into covenant with the ultimate source of existence.
That sustaining and transforming power not made with human hands.
It binds together families and generations, protecting against the idolatry of any human claim to absolute truth or authority.
This covenant is the charter and responsibility and the joy of worship in the face of death as well as life.
I call that church free, which brings individuals into a caring, trusting fellowship.
That protects and nourishes their integrity and spiritual freedom. That yearns to belong to the church universal.
It is open to insight and conscience from every source. It bursts through rigid tradition, giving rise to new and living language, to new and broader fellowship.
It is a pilgrim church, a servant church, on an adventure of the Spirit.
The goal is the prophethood and priesthood of all believers, the one for the liberty of prophesizing, the order for the ministry of healing.
It aims to find unity in diversity under the promptings of the Spirit that bloweth where it listens and maketh all things new.
Excellent. And next, Joy Campbell has a book up front here to read, and for a little story for those of all ages. And so if you did want to come forward, you could. We don't have any younger folks today because we did have to, our youth coordinator had to take the weekend off. Sometimes she deserves a week off too, so no kids today. But I'll ask Joy to come forward and read the story. I think we'll all enjoy the story. as she chose this from our library in the back, which all of you are welcome to check out our library anytime. The doors are open and after the service. And I think your microphone, that microphone's hot.
Yes.
Okay,
Good, so if you
all right.
grab a
Well,
chair.
Actually, since we don't have any little ones, I think I'll just go up there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this is a book called Little Tree, and it's about change, since we're speaking about change today. Of course, sometimes we decide it's a good thing to change, and sometimes we decide it's not a good thing to change. But this book is called Little Tree, and you can see he's a little tiny tree, and he's got his fall leaves on. And there's a little tiny animal up there, there's actually a squirrel and a fox, and they're both trying to convince him to change. So they're, I guess, the change agents. So you can just listen here, and I'll try to explain. It's beautifully illustrated by the author. The author, Lauren Long, both illustrated and wrote this. It's called Little Tree. So it's very pretty pictures. Once there was a little tree filled with little leaves, who was surrounded by other little trees who had little leaves of their own. So they all start out the same. They're all little trees with little leaves. In the heat of long summer days, Little Tree's leaves kept him cool. The squirrels would climb up his branches to play. The mourning dove landed in him and sang her fluty song. The little tree was sure to grow up big and strong. Autumn arrived and cool winds filled the air. The wind tickled the little tree as it passed through his branches and ruffled his leaves. The air grew cold, and the leaves on all of the trees changed color, becoming yellow, red, and orange. So here are all the little trees, they all have their orange leaves. Then, one by one, the trees began to drop their leaves, but not Little Tree. He just hugged his leaves tight. "Hello, Little Tree," said a squirrel. "You're supposed to drop your leaves now." But Little Tree was unsure. What would he do without his leaves? Winter came. "What are you doing with leaves still on you?" asked the doe. Little Tree just hugged his leaves tight. This is one of my favorite illustrations. This Lauren Long really knows how to illustrate. Springtime arrived, and the little forest burst into life. The other trees grew bright new leaves, and the squirrels played in their branches. But Little Tree could hear the mourning dove singing in her fluty song, and he didn't have any green branches. He was still brown. The seasons continued to come and go. "Little Tree," quacked a duckling, "your leaves are brown. Are you feeling sick?" A fox said, "Little Tree, it's autumn. It's time for you to drop your leaves. Can you do it? Ready? 1, 2. But Little Tree just hugged his leaves tight, and all around the forest grew and grew. Little Tree hasn't changed. He's still a little brown tree. One summer, Little Tree could no longer feel the sunlight. The squirrels played high above on the broad, tall trees, and the mourning dove sang so far away that he could hardly hear her fluty song. And autumn came again, and leaves began to blanket the ground, and Little Tree looked up at the other trees at their branches reaching high into the sky. And he remembered when the trees had all been his size. But now he's still little. Down there he hasn't grown, hasn't changed. And then he let go. As his last leaf floated to the ground for the first time, Little Tree felt the harsh cold of winter. So he's finally lost his leaves, but he's still little. But in time, something happened. to be just as big. In time, he changed and he got to be just as big as the other trees. Once there was a little tree.
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you, Joy. Excellent. Who's the author again?
Lauren Long.
Lauren Long. Fantastic. And again, that is in our library?
Actually, it's the public library.
Oh, that
The
is
public library has many copies.
Okay. And our next time is that we have our joys and concerns, and this is part where any of you and all can get involved if you like. Now, step over here, we have these two containers up front. We have the stones, and you can take a stone out of the one container, hold it, maybe say your, and please say your name, and then if you'd like to share your joy or concern, you take the stone and put it into the other container representing the ripples that we talked about in the first talk, which was sending all of your joys and concerns out to the wider community. And I'll start with one. Make sure that works. Testing. Are we okay? I can grab this other one too.
You can just turn it up.
Turn it on.
Is it on?
There he goes. Testing, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2.
Hello?
Ah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Plenty of microphones. And so my concern is I think we are on our first year that Russia has invaded Ukraine, and so I want to put a stone in for those folks over there. One joy that I do have about that is I was reading today the New Yorker is going to do a podcast on people that left Ukraine and not Ukraine, but people that left Russia, and they're calling them the freedom fighters of Russia that want Russia to get back on track, not invading other countries. So I look forward to that podcast.
I'm John. John and I have two joys. One is last Sunday. How many of you attended that? It's not,
Yeah.
it's not on? Oh, there it is. Okay. How many of you attended the music festival last Sunday? Wasn't that awesome? That was, I don't know what I expected, but I think I expected some people in blue jeans and sneakers to sing Kumbaya. And what we got was just an awesome presentation. The production was incredible, with great songs. The Kunzis kind of stole the show with their duet. And the music that was played wasn't just stuff. It was all classical music with a clarinet and our superb piano player and an organ and several violin stuff, all very highbrow stuff, and I should not have been surprised. This is a very intellectual community, and I shouldn't have been, but I was. And I just thought it was awesome. The second is that I went to my first Wednesday night event at the Pilas family thing. They're not here today, along with the other people with children who didn't come because we don't have Spirit Play today, so the congregation's a little smaller today than usual. But it was a great event. Got to meet some super people and great conversations. So those of you who haven't experienced the Pilas Wednesday night event probably should, I'd recommend it heartily, because it will give you a joy also. Here's my cousin's wife.
Good morning, I'm John's cousin's wife, Jane. I have enjoyed this morning. I just wanted to make you all aware too that this weekend is the greatest science experiment that everyone in the public can take part of. It's the Great American Bird Watch. And it's been going on for 25 years. You can help count the birds. You just go out in your backyard or to a park or out in the country. Spend a minimum of 15 minutes, but a day like this, gorgeous, you might want to spend longer. And just make a list of every bird you can identify by sight and every bird that you might know the sound, like Canadian geese or cardinals or doves, you know, have a distinctive sound. So even if you just hear the bird, make a list of those and then you upload them on the website. I think it's just eBird, but if you look, Great American Bird Watch, you'll catch it. And they want to keep track of this data to check, you know, climate change and patterns of migration and all sorts of data. It's been going on 25 years, so it's a great thing to take part in, and that's a joy for me this morning.
The Audubon Society will have a link to it.
Yeah.
My name is Alan. Few joys. First of all, kind of to echo John's accolades for last Sunday, thanks to everyone who participated and everyone who attended. It was really a fun event, and I hear that people want to do it again, and I've gotten a few emails from people who watched it online, so we'll put the web link in the next e-blast so that you can watch it online if you were not there. And big thanks to Carol for her role in getting that going, and also a shout out for her Red Letter Day tomorrow, I believe. I think Carol is going to be a year older tomorrow. And thanks to Joy for making up the programs for last Sunday too. And on the subject of music, this is in a totally different genre, but South Dakota Public Broadcasting has a television documentary which I watched last night, and it'll be repeated this week, and you can find it on their website. It's called How Hip Hop Changed the World, and it's a real eye-opener, even for those of us that don't necessarily enjoy hip hop, but it's something we need to learn about. So I'll let it go at that.
Yeah, I'm Paul. On December 9th, my brother passed away of a metastatic cancer, and he went to Mardi Gras in New Orleans probably 3 of every 4 years because he made masks of great quality and great art, great complexity, and sold them there, and he was cremated, and my sister, 3 of my sisters and his widow and his children are all gathering in New Orleans for Mardi Gras on Tuesday to scatter his ashes, and my thoughts are with him.
Hi, my name is Edie Ann Hafke. Everybody calls me Edie. Jenny keeps reminding me I have a very loud voice, so I hardly need this microphone, but I use it because it makes it easier to hear for everybody else too, so besides me. I just would like to continue to be thinking about our friend who is still out there, basically, and keep thinking about us too, and hope that we can continue on existing between the two of us like married people. So we have a pretty successful life, and I love her for that. So.
Hi, I'm Scott. I brought about 2 dozen eggs, so they're hiding in the narthex. If someone wants them, please let me know. And it looks like we have a 7-month-old golden doodle available for sale again. If someone's interested or knows someone that's interested, please help. Please.
I have something that's more of an announcement than a little to joy. I had the opportunity to interview a young man who's applied to Harvard, and I did the preliminary interview for him, and he's from Brandon, And it's going to be on College Jeopardy on Friday, this Friday, afternoon at 5 o'clock, I believe. And he's representing, even though he's at senior high school, he's representing, I believe it's University of North Carolina, but I can't be certain of that. But you might be interested in watching a local young man on Jeopardy.
What day?
This Friday. This Friday, I believe it's at 5 o'clock. Jeopardy in Mexico.
I just wanted to say, Mike mentioned the war in Ukraine. If you want to help out there, the UUSC does a good deal of work there. The big group that is helping out there is the Mercy Corps, and also Doctors Without Borders.
Charles comes forward, yeah, the UUSC is the service organization associated with the Unitarian Universalist Service.
I want to mention the catastrophe in Turkey and Syria. So far, 36,000 people have died, and there are people still being dug out of the rubble. And it was a good note this morning in Reuters that Doctors Without Borders has finally been cleared to go into Syria, and there is a convoy of people going into Syria now to get medical relief. And so I did contribute a while back $10 to Doctors Without Borders. And I think that's a worthy cause, as we haven't mentioned twice today. Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone for your contributions and joys and concerns. So we hold those all amongst the community here, and just take a moment of silence and reflection of those joys and concerns. Turn to page 347 and the great hymnal again, Gather the Spirit. And we'll ask Carol to get us started.
Gather the Spirit
Okay, we have our second reading here, and that is on number 592, again, the back of the book. And I'll go with the bold, you please read the italics. The free mind. I call that mind free which masters the senses and which recognizes its own reality and greatness.
Which passes life, not asking what it shall eat or drink, but in hungering, thirsting, and seeking after righteousness.
I call that mind free which jealously guards its intellectual rights and powers, which does not content itself with a passive or hereditary faith.
Which opens itself to light, whatsoever it may come, which receives new truth as an angel from heaven.
I call that mind free which is not passively framed by outward circumstances and is not the creature of accidental impulse.
Which discovers everywhere the making signature of the infinite Spirit, and in them finds help to its own spiritual enlargement.
I call that mind free which protects itself against the usurpations of society and which does not cower to human opinion.
Which refuses to be the slave or tool of many or of the few, and guards its empire over itself as nobler than the empire of the world.
I call that mind free which resists the bondage of habit, which does not mechanically copy the past or live on its old virtues.
But which listens for new and higher premonitions of conscience, and rejoices to pour itself forth in fresh and higher exertions.
I call that mind free which sets no bounds to its love, which wherever they are seen delights in virtue and sympathizes with suffering.
Which recognizes in all human beings the image of God and the rights of God's children, and offers itself up as a willing sacrifice for humankind.
I call that mind free which has cast off all fear of wrongdoing, and which no menace or peril can enthrall.
Which is calm in the midst of tumults, and possesses itself through all else lost.
William Eller James. And so I welcome our speaker here today is Rick Knobe. You may be familiar with Rick. He was a mayor in South Dakota in 1970s, correct? 1970s. He was at that time he was the youngest elected mayor in the nation in a smaller community like Sioux Falls, South Dakota was then. So he was a mayor for 1 or 2 terms, was it? 2 terms, and then he continued on. He was on the radio prior to that, and then continued on with his radio career and retired from his radio career a few years back. Ran for a legislative position in 2020, and I ran at that same time, and that's how I crossed paths with Rick. We both were working outside of the Democratic office on 26th and Cleveland up there, and so we would run into each other. We were running in different districts, but we oftentimes would talk together about different things and kind of commiserate a little together as we both lost at that time. But afterwards, we got together one day for coffee, and he invited myself and a couple others, and we were just sitting down having coffee, and we kind of decided to start getting people together on a regular basis, and he really took...
My speech, Mike.
What's that?
You're
I'm
giving.
giving you those. Yeah, you just stay sitting. But, my main point I wanted to make is that I didn't really have as much to do with it. It was mostly his efforts, and that group has continued on, so he's going to share about that group and some exciting things that are coming up with that group. And also, I think he'll share a little just about his story of being a mayor in Sioux Falls so many years ago and things. So looking forward to his talk here today. Rick, no.
Good morning, happy Sunday.
Good morning.
Carol, thank you for the music. I love Beethoven. Nice job. I haven't done any public speaking in probably 15 years. I used to do it all the time, of course, when I was mayor. And suddenly, you know, when you're not in public office anymore, the demands for you during public speaking diminishes considerably. What a surprise, huh? So it's been a while, so if I seem a little hesitant at times, it's because I'm nervous. And also, I know I've got 20 minutes. Well, in the old days, I could time out 20 minutes in my head. Guess what? Can't do that anymore.
Nope.
So 20 minutes. The clock started. I want to start off with some things that are, my opening statement is, your vote matters. And I say that from personal experience. Back in 1974, when I ran for mayor, there were 5 of us in the race. I was 27 at the time, the incumbent was 60, there was a gentleman 68 running, somebody a couple of years older than me, then an 18-year-old high school student. 5 of us in the race. Yeah, it was an interesting time, and I could talk about that story itself for a long time. But bottom line was this, I'm standing in front of you today as a former mayor because 3 people who were going to support the guy just slightly older than me went out of town that election day and didn't vote. He finished 2 votes behind me. That got me in the runoff, which ultimately got me to being mayor of Sioux Falls at the age of 27. As Paul Harvey described to me on his end of his broadcast a couple of days later, he said something almost like this. And in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the voters there have thrown out of office a perfectly good mayor and elected a 27-year-old shaggy-haired disc jockey. Good day. Well, so your vote, if those of you that were here, if you voted for me that first time, thank you very much, I appreciate it. And for those of you who didn't, that's okay, you lost. And then when the form of government we had at that time was commission form. There were 3 of us full-time, rotated 5-year terms. Didn't have the mayor council form that we have today. And so I was one of 3 votes. And because of that, I was a swing vote on a lot of things that changed the city of Sioux Falls. I'm not bragging here. I do have an ego, but I'm not bragging. If you like the River Greenway, I was the vote that got the River Greenway going. If you like that Falls Park is now inhabitable and is one of the finest parks in the country, I was one of the votes to help start that process. To be fair, I wasn't the only person in favor of those things. There were others, but my vote was the vote that made them happen in Sioux Falls. We cleaned up the river with the tertiary treatment plant. We did all kinds of things, night commission meetings. We brought cable TV in. We put term limits on people who were serving on city boards. That hadn't happened. I found out there were people on city boards that had been on city boards longer than I had been alive. Now, they weren't bad people, not at all. They were citizens who were standing up and doing good stuff, but we didn't have any turnover. It was a closed shop. and we changed that, and the city, I think, is better for it. So, one vote makes a difference, and that's your vote. Just point that out to you. Mike talked a little bit about what we're working on, and I'm going to spend a little time on that, but before I do, I was a lifelong Republican, strong lifelong Republican, very fiscally conservative, socially moderate, but fiscally conservative. That changed when Mitch McConnell, in the middle of Barack Obama's first term, said that his job, Mitch McConnell's job, was to make sure that Barack Obama did not have a second term. That turned me off, because Mitch McConnell's job as the Senate leader was to get things done for the country. And he was not, that was not his primary role. And so I went down and I changed my registration from Republican. I was a libertarian for a while. That was interesting. I lasted as a libertarian about a year or so. I couldn't register as a Democrat. My father, if I had registered as a Democrat, my father would have come back from the grave and slapped me in the face. He was from Chicago. As a Republican, that was a rare thing, but that's how strong he was at it. So I became an independent. And for those of you that are not independent, you should be independent. The only problem is we can't vote on important stuff like Republican primaries and things like that. That's another story for another time. We almost lost our democracy on January 6th. Came close. We were very fortunate that no lives, no congressman, the vice president, no senators were killed that day. That was due to all kinds of people doing the right thing at the right moment to save lives. If they hadn't, the outcome would have been much different. The country would have survived it. Eventually, the rule of law would have prevailed. But we would have lost people. And it would have been one of the hugest tragedies in this country. Bigger than 9/11, in my opinion, if that had actually happened. But it didn't. So we're sitting here today, a couple of years later, and if you're like me, you sit back and say, gosh, what can I do about this national turmoil, all this divisiveness, the negative stuff. It's overwhelming, and you can just get so overwhelmed, you just feel powerless. Well, you're not. All politics is local. Everybody that's serving in Congress now, whether you agree with them or vehemently disagree with them, faced the voters. They had to go and convince voters in their district and their state to vote for them. That's where you and I come in, because we then have a voice in those folks. Now, again, it gets overwhelming, but at the local level, again, all politics is local. We decide who serves on school boards. We decide who serves in City Hall. We decide who sits at the county commission level. And we decide on who's in the legislature in our district. And we also decide the governor and our senators within our state. We've got an election coming up in April, I believe it is, for school board. The incumbent I know is going to run. I confess I do not follow that school stuff anymore because my kids are long out of school. My grandkids are out of school, so I'm not as intimately involved. But I'm going to pay attention to her as a candidate and others who are running. I'm concerned about school curriculum. I'm concerned about banning books in schools, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm going to be paying close attention to that. I can have an impact on that school board election. The next city council election is about a year from now. It'll be 2024 in the springtime. And there'll be, I think, 4 or 5 council people that'll be up. Now, in theory, it's nonpartisan. As my friend Lawila Hunking said many years ago, there's not a Republican or Democratic way to fill a pothole, you just fill a pothole. And that's very true with local politics. But politics partisanship is now taking over city government these days. And I could talk about that for a long time. I think it's a wrong thing to do. So, but we have an impact on that. Same with the county. you have an impact on your legislators. You may not feel that way, but you do. With your vote, with your letters, with your participation. We know that money is the oil that runs politics. And I would assume that there aren't too many multimillionaires sitting in the room here giving thousands of dollars to candidates. As a matter of fact, probably some of you don't give for whatever reason, which is fine. But you've got a voice, you've got time, you've got energy. You can put that to good use to work in your districts. Now, change agents. Mike took most of everything I was going to say, but not everything. His describing things at the beginning is very true. It was Mike and I and a gentleman by the name of Chuck Point sat down with our first cup of coffee at Caribou on South Minnesota Avenue, the north one. We sat in a private room and back there and started talking, and it was a lively conversation amongst the three of us. We concluded that we had such a great time we were going to do it again, and we did. And I think the next person that joined us was Craig Brown, who is, I believe, here today, if I saw him. Yeah, Craig is an entrepreneur, and I'm not going to, he didn't pay me, so I'm not going to say what his business is. But he's very active in politics in District 10, and he's district chair there. And then other people joined. Pam Cole, whose name you may be familiar with. She's run for public office before. She's been involved in several campaigns. So we started with 3, and then there were 5, and then we're 6, and then we're 10, and then we outgrew the space we were in. It wasn't big enough, so we moved over to, I think we went over to the Ronning Branch Library. Now there are 24 of us that are part of this change agents group. And here's the basic thing is, yeah, we want change. There are Republicans, Democrats, and independents that are part of this group. We've raised a little bit of money. None of us sitting at the table are throwing in $5,000 to make the thing work. It's kind of grassroots stuff. 3 or 4 of the group have been to Pier at least once, maybe twice. I think Craig told me the other day that he was going to Pier first time, lived in this state a while, first time in the state capitol. Hopefully he'll share that experience someday. I remember the first time I walked in there, it was like, golly, this is a big building, and it's beautiful in there if you haven't been in there. Our role is to try and quietly but effectively make change. We're focusing on legislative districts in Minnehaha County and northern Lincoln County. That's where most of the people in South Dakota, a huge percentage, live. There are 8 legislative districts in Minnehaha County. We're the only county in the state with that many legislative districts and within its corporate limits. So there are 8 senators out of 35 come from Minnehaha County. There are ×2, 16 representatives out of Minnehaha County. That's where we live, where you and I live. We can have an impact on that. The reality is, in District 10 and District 15, there are all of those seats, 2 senators and 4 representatives are from those 2 districts. That's a considerable amount of the Democrats in Pier. So our goal is just 1 district or 2 districts at a time to start flipping seats. It's unrealistic to think that there's going to be a huge blue wave in 2024 and suddenly others besides Republicans are going to sweep into the South Dakota legislature to make change. That's not going to happen. It's going to happen 1 or 2 seats at a time. And it's going to happen because people are paying attention. People are calling out these representatives and senators, not just for their votes, but for the bills that they introduce. I'm sad to say that the vast majority of people in our county that were up in Pier voted for the bill that blatantly tears family apart, tears families apart, the transgender bill. That was sponsored out of here, but several of the sponsors were from Minnehaha County. We're gonna call those people out by name. You introduced the bill, we're gonna put their names to it. You voted for the bill, we're gonna put their names to it. We're not just gonna say those dastardly Republicans or whatever. We're gonna use names, because these are public officials, public record, public votes. And we're gonna start calling them out. I hope that you will get more active. If you're not active now, we need more people. You may think, well, I'm just a little, I'm just one person. Yes, you are. But you are one person who decides to stand up and get involved. And that's critically important. If you want to become a change agent or find out more about what we're doing, we've got a Facebook page, Change Agents of South Dakota. We've got a website, same name. And coming soon is going to be a podcast that we're going to try and do. I met Friday, with a gentleman that's going to help us orchestrate that. And so you'll be seeing probably sometime in the next 3 weeks our first podcast. And I'm looking forward to that. It puts me behind the microphone again. Where I'm finding now, I'm feeling really comfortable out here after doing this for a while. So, the other thing I should point out, going back, and this isn't about me, but I've run for office 5 times. First 2 times I won, last 3 times I lost. The last time I lost, it was the legislative seat. I decided that the voters actually did me a favor because I kept on thinking, as I was down in Arizona recently, I kept on thinking, I'm warm and comfortable, I could have been in Pierre. The voters did me a favor. It was really good. But I love policy stuff. And that's, one of my strengths is, I'm not a policy wonk, but I love getting into public policy issues. And we need more people in Pierre that are policy oriented and family oriented. They talk about family values in Pierre till I want to puke, because they don't live it. They talk it, but they don't walk it. And the governor and others talk about how free this state is. If you're a female and you need comprehensive medical care and you happen to be pregnant, you're not free. It's that simple. If you are a family who has a child who is struggling with their sexual identity, for lack of a better term, in South Dakota pretty soon, you're not free. And there are lots of other cases like that. So if you want to get involved, see Mike when we're done, when we have the get-together here, we can talk a little bit more about it. According to this, I've got 3 minutes and 39 seconds left. But I think I'm going to stop right there. I appreciate this opportunity. It does feel good to be up and talking about stuff that's important to me. I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much. And I can assure you I will be back here sitting next to some of you very, very soon. Godspeed.
Excellent, thank you, Rick. And let's go right to our offering, and Carol will play for release.
It's up to you. You can choose to eliminate it. You can say we were electronic. Yeah. I'll talk to you afterwards about something.
Okay, and if you could read along with me, we receive these
Gifts
gifts
freely, we receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for our planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, and loving one another.
Let's go rate 2, 3, 4, 6, and our time is short, but I think we can get a couple lines of it in, can't we? This is
Sure.
It's a really good one. First 2 lines.
Come sing a song with me, come sing a song with me, come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind.
And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love in a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me, come dream a dream with me, come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
Extinguish the chalice. The chalice is
Extinguished, but the light goes with us out into the world.
Thank you for everyone for all the participation. The half of the contributions do go to Banquet West, so thank you for your contributions today. And again, thanks to our speaker, Rick Knobe, and he will speak afterwards at 20 after, but we'll just close up with a postlude that Carol has so nicely prepared for us. isn't gonna work for you with your code. So go downstairs, have a little coffee, we'll join back up here with Rick to have a little discussion at 20:25 after, give you a little more time today. Enjoy coffee, thanks.